Dave,
You pick.
I think Nikki sounds like this could be a really good, really fun call. It looks like we've got Nikki in Oregon, no pronouns given. Nikki, what do you have for us today? Thanks for hanging out.
Hey, Nikki.
Hey, oh gosh, thank you so much for taking my call.
You bet.
I don't know. I mean, you guys keep on encouraging me on all different channels to call in. So I called in. I don't have anything specific for you. I don't have any evidence that I could ever give you because I can't convince you, and I can't give you the evidence in like 5 or 10 minutes for God. All I can tell you is that I was a Jewish atheist for 54 years. I used to listen to the show as an atheist, and Ray Comfort would come on. Oh my gosh, I would laugh at him, and it was so funny. I thought the arguments for God were just absolutely ridiculous. So I totally get it. I do. So there's nothing I can really offer.
Can I just real quick, Nikki? Can I just shout back to you real quick? What I've got in the call notes, and I know how wonderful our call screeners are. It says that you can give atheists a way to pursue truth. Do you think that's like is that something you could talk about? Because I know Dave likes truth. I've had truth just once or twice at a fancy restaurant, so I'm hoping to find some again if you can.
That's great.
Yeah, if you can help us out, I think both of us would be deeply appreciative. So.
No, I think, as an atheist, and this is why I understand it, because when I was an atheist, all I wanted to do is just know truth, right? That's what we're about. That's what we want to do, and we use science as an epistemological tool to pursue truth. But I think there are other tools that we can use for epistemology, and I didn't really connect them. I thought science was the main one, and it's true. It's a great tool, but then I had to come to the conclusion that maybe I could be wrong. Like maybe there are all these other people saying that, and they're smart and they're intelligent, not all of them, but a lot of Christians are smart and intelligent, and they have reasonable arguments. So I'm like, okay, let me just put my biases aside, my atheistic biases, which was really hard, and listen to them. Maybe I could be wrong. And so I looked at the other side. And
hang on just a second, Nikki. Hang on just a second, Nikki. It sounded to me like you said that you had other methods of coming to truth other than like scientific means. What would those be?
When I was an atheist, I only had science, right? So, but there are other things that we know that witness to truth.
Like what?
Reason.
Logic. Mm-hmm.
Logic. Reason. Philosophy.
Aren't those kind of foundational for science?
Yeah. So logic is the foundation for science, right? So without logic, science does not work. And so we make conclusions in science based on logic, and sometimes, we get it wrong. We've had theories change, right? We've had theoretical.
Well, that's all true. Let me jump in here, Nikki. What just give us an example of what were some of the arguments, these reasonable arguments that some of these Christians had that persuaded you?
Yeah, for sure.
No, there were none. I didn't listen to Christians. I had to do research, because most of the Christians, unfortunately, that I talked to had no frigging clue.
What did you research, Nikki?
Okay, what was the research that you did?
Yeah, what did you research?
I would ask them about quantum physics. I would ask them about how could this? And I was raised Jewish, so they would say, he fulfills the Jewish laws, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. Scripture is complete BS. It's completely convoluted. It doesn't make any sense, which is actually what Scripture says. But those who are perishing don't understand it. It's foolishness to them. So I was like, what? So
You mentioned
Nikki, let's
quantum physics
years.
for a second. Hang on, Nikki,
Yeah, let me
because
just
we want to try and focus this as best as we
Nikki.
possibly.
Hey, Nikki,
Hang on.
Nikki, slow
Yeah.
down, slow down, slow down, slow down.
Yeah, because
we want to ask you some questions that kind of get to the crux of the matter here, because it seems like we're kind of wandering all over the road here.
Yeah.
So let me just bring it down to what the crux of the matter is. Let me ask you, what do you believe about God now, and why? Let's just
What do I
focus on
believe about
that.
God? Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that God exists, and sadly, He does. And why do I believe it? Because I've done a lot of research, and
Okay.
you
Tell
look
us what.
at
Give us an example of the research that you've done, Nikki.
Yeah.
What is it that has convinced you of this existence of God?
Okay, let me say this. You guys want the evidence, and you want to follow the pattern, but it's not just one piece of evidence. You have to change your mind and say, maybe I'm wrong about this, right?
So hang on, Nikki. That's okay, but I want you to understand that we don't want to have a conversation where the only way that Dave and I come to truth is just by accepting the thing that the person is claiming to begin with. If I have to just believe in God before we can find the research to prove God, then that's not. Hang on just a second, Nikki. Hang on just a second, okay? I apologize if I got contentious there. I'm not trying to, but I got you muted for just a second so I can finish this rant. I love to hear myself talk, and these speakers go right to my ears. But if you have research, if you have done something and you have looked into something and you have any bullet point of anything, any spreadsheet of anything that makes your needle move closer towards, I believe in God, that's what we want. And we understand that there may be a bunch of different pieces of evidence. We get that. But if the first piece of evidence that you bring us just isn't well founded, well, we can just throw that out and keep going to the rest of them. And that's how we want to do it. And I think that's a little bit easier of a way for us to try to break it down. So I got you back. So sorry for muting you. So what would you say is the research that you have done? Just give us the first bullet point. Okay. We'll take a look at that and we'll move on from there.
No, I can't. Okay, the first bullet point was, okay, this is the thing, the scientific method. This is what I had to make up my mind about. If I'm truly being scientific, and if I say God does not exist, let's say that's my hypothesis, right? Okay. So when you do science, there's a null hypothesis. And so if I say God does not exist, what is the null hypothesis for that? That God could exist. So I have to keep that option open. And what I find is that if that is a possibility, which is what science does, then I have to research that. And so I began to look into, which theory better fits the nature of reality, this claim of God or not. And I began to look into a lot of science. I began to look into archaeology. I began to look
What's
into
the first
biology.
piece of science that you looked into, Nikki? That's what we're trying to get at. What's the bullet point? What's the bullet point of science that you looked at?
Sorry,
Nikki,
you're not letting me finish.
Nikki, hang on.
Nikki,
I feel
we're trying to get you to focus on one thing. Tell us one thing that you researched that led you to believe in the existence of God. Focus on one thing, Nikki.
I think Dave and I get the overarching picture decently enough to keep going on with the conversation. But where we're getting hung up right now is you keep saying, well, I've got this thing back here in a journal that I looked up and it's really good evidence, but you're not telling us what that is. So just 30 seconds should be more than enough time for you to just say, here's the first thing that I found. Like, I ran around for 30 minutes and I felt God inside me. Like, that's the, okay. So you're
Give
back
us
on
one thing.
What is it?
Okay. I didn't have just one thing, and you won't have one thing. It's a cumulative case. So let me just state that in the beginning. So the very first thing that I personally looked up was the Big Bang. And then I looked up the research on that. But let me just say that it is a cumulative case across.
That's fine, but let's talk about the Big Bang.
Let me, can I please finish?
Nikki,
Please,
Nikki,
sir.
Nikki,
It is a
you do, Nikki, I hate pushing this button. I have this button and it says mute and then it says unmute after I push it the first time. And I can just sit here and just push it all damn day. I don't want to do that. But I don't know if you know, but I also have other calls. I have other people that have really good topics that we want to get to. Okay? And what we're trying to do is go through point by point and actually look at these things. We're not just trying to hand wave them away and say, well, Big Bang, science, meh. We really want to talk about them. And if you're saying that one of the first things that brought you into believing that God is real was looking into research of the Big Bang, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's talk about that research and actually see if it gets us to the conclusion that you want to get to. We understand it's a cumulative case. We get it. There are lots of things that all get stacked up together and make this beautiful. We get all of that. Let's look at the one puzzle piece and make sure it fits. So
Big Bang.
Big Bang. Go. What about the Big Bang made you feel as if that was closer towards making you believe in God? What was it about the Big Bang? Was it the microwave background radiation?
Go ahead.
What?
No. So I mean, it's a very simple thing. The first idea that I had, and you guys know this, is that, something can't come from nothing. And then we have the multiverse, right? And so it's just kind of an extrapolation that moves the point back. So that was the very first thing I had to consider. And then
okay. Well, hang on right there, because hang on just a second, Nikki, because I just got something I'll just throw at you real quick, which is, what if something just always existed? What if there just was something constantly?
You're talking stable state. You're talking stable state, like Aristotle. So
I mean, not exactly, but that's okay. It'll still work.
We thought that was true, and then we discovered that time and matter and space had a beginning. So it wasn't eternal. So
okay, but that beginning isn't necessarily the beginning of everything. It's the beginning of the local presentation that we understand as the universe, right?
Sure, but what if it was God? What if God was eternal?
What if it wasn't?
Yeah.
And so, Nikki, to your point, something can't come from nothing. Where did God come from? I mean, the people that make that argument that say,
but God is eternal.
No,
why not the universe? Why not just the universe is eternal?
You can't, Nikki, you can't start with the premise. Nikki, let me talk. Nikki, let me talk. You can't start with the premise that God is eternal. Who said God's eternal? You can't just start from there. That's not the starting place. So when you say something can't come from nothing, it presupposes that God came from nothing. And that's not fair. You don't get to make that assumption. That's not a starting place. So if something can't come from nothing, that also implies that God can't come from nothing. You don't get to take him out of the equation.
Exactly. Can I answer?
Sure.
Answer now?
Please.
Okay. So if we're saying that the universe is eternal, then that kind of violates the law of thermodynamics, right? So we have a natural system, multiverses, whatever, but they can't create themselves. Nature can't give birth to itself, but something that is eternal, beyond time, space, and matter, can create it. And so
why does God get to be beyond time, space, and matter?
Oh my goodness. Let me finish.
Nikki, again, this button that I don't like pushing, that I can just push all day. I don't want to do this. I want to have a conversation. And when we have a conversation, we have to go back and forth. And you have to respond to things that Dave is saying. If Dave brings up something, which he didn't say these words, but what Dave was talking about is the special pleading fallacy, where you say everything fits in this little box right here, except for the thing that I want to not fit in the box. You're saying nothing can be eternal. Well, of course, God can, but nothing can be eternal. It's a big problem, but God can. That was what Dave was pushing back on. And that's why he had to say that right there, because if you just continued on for another 10 minutes, well, we wouldn't get to more calls, and we would have to go back to that. So let's actually have a back and forth. Let's actually try to engage with each other. Okay. So what Dave was saying,
Letting me finish my thought, sir.
and I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think
I'm not
we're done
going
with
to,
Nikki.
Nikki.
I think we're done with Nikki because she won't listen.
Yeah, and that frustrates me because
Mhm.
I really feel like we were starting to make some progress. And the problem is, Dave, if I'm telling you directions, if I say, hey man, here's how you get to the local gas station, and I say, well, the first thing you do is you hop on a donkey that has wings and can fly. Why the hell would you let me tell you where to take a left?
Yeah.
Like, why would you wait? You'd be like,
there are no
well,
donkeys with wings that fly.
they can't do that, Rarity.
So,
What's
yeah.
up? So
It's frustrating. She won't listen, and
that's
she's
okay. That's okay.
yeah.